Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Amber Wright. I'm a pediatric hospitalist. I've been practicing medicine for 10 years now. I am so sorry. Do I look at that? Or
No, you can look at me.
Okay,
I mean,
sorry.
you can if you want to look into
Will
their
that
souls.
get edited out?
We can. Yeah, it
Okay,
will.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So I'm dual board certified in general pediatrics and pediatric hospital medicine. I was the associate professor at Texas Tech, moved here about a year and a half ago, and now I'm a pediatric hospitalist at RMAC. I have 6 kids. I like to cook, run, read, play piano. That's me.
That's awesome. And you're also married to someone in medical.
Yeah, he's an occupational therapist and he also works at RMAC. And so that's been really fun to work at the same place because we can have lunch together if we're on at the same time. It's been really fun.
That's awesome. And your parents also live close.
They live with us. They live in the same house as we do. And that's why we moved, essentially, is so that we could get more help with the 6 kids while I'm working and Ben's working. And it's been a beautiful balance. It's been really good. I have 8 shifts a month that I do. Ben works 7 on, 7 off. He usually ends up doing extra shifts on his days off. And so it's been nice to have my parents there that can kind of help out with the kids and keep them on their schedule, even when we're all over the place.
Yeah, my parents are close too. And it's totally lovely. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What made you want to go into medical? Can I ask that before we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So to be honest, it wasn't something I planned on. I'm kind of a real traditional religious person that felt like I was just going to get married and have kids and not work and stay at home with my kids. And I had a tumor on my ovary as a teenager and I had that removed, and it kind of sparked an interest in medicine in general and just being appreciative of people that work in medicine and grateful for what they do. And so I've always had like a fascination with medicine. And then I went to BYU and never had dated anyone and was getting close to graduating and felt like I have to do something. And so I got a job as a aide at an assisted living home and thought, well, maybe I'll go into nursing. And just my heart goes out to nurses. They're pretty amazing. And it just wasn't something I felt like I could do. I changed a lot of adult diapers, cleaned up a lot of vomit, spent a lot of hours with ungrateful people, and just felt like, I don't know that I can do this. This is hard. And so I thought I'd do PA school, and then just figured if it only takes 2.5 years or so to learn what it takes other people more time, like I'd rather learn more, and I wasn't in a hurry. And so I went to medical school, and it was beautiful. And I feel like my life has been guided kind of from the beginning. You don't always see it at the time, but looking back, you're like, oh, that's exactly what I was meant to do. I feel like women have a calling to like take care of sick people and take care of people that need help and comfort and strengthen. So it's been good.
That's awesome. And then when did you meet your husband?
Well, I knew him when I was a kid. He grew up in the same church as but he's 3 years older than me. And so when I moved to Lubbock at 14 and he was 17, we never really dated, but I knew his family, went to girls' camp with his dad and sister.
Oh, fun.
And then I went to BYU and came back home when he was going to Texas Tech, and I started med school. And we met at church and started dating and got married after the first year of med school.
Oh, wow.
It was quick.
Was he also in med school at that time, or?
No, he was going to be a high school principal at the time, was his like goal. And then he changed to pharmacy. He changed quite a bit.
Wow.
He picked occupational therapy school at some point, and he went to school, started OT school my 4th year of med school. And so that was me going from med school to residency was kind of scary because I felt like I don't have a choice. I have to go where I went to med school because Ben's in school, and we got pregnant with our first kid. And she was due 2 months into residency. So I had to they call it suicide match, where you just apply to one place, one residency, and
you did.
Cross your fingers.
And you made it, and they accepted you.
Yeah. That
Wow.
was a scary one, but I figured do what God wants you to do and he'll make it work, or else I'll just take a year off and then figure it out
Wow.
later.
So you had your first daughter in residency.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you do that?
It was actually better. It's crazy with family planning how you wait for the right time and there's never a right time. And she was one that I didn't think I could get pregnant because I had that tumor and they removed an ovary and I didn't have a period for 3 years. I knew I could get pregnant, but thought that it would be a hard thing. Mm-hmm. And so we got off birth control when I started my 4th year and thought that like the end of 4th year, you have a few months off, that'd be a good time to have a baby. But we didn't get pregnant until we would have her the 2nd month of residency. And I thought, oh, dang, this is poor timing, especially if I'm suicide matching. Like, I don't know where I'll be. And it just was scary at the time. But it worked out beautifully because I could do my first 2 hardest rotations and get my feet wet. And then I had maternity leave and I was off and I could take my United States medical licensing exam step 3 while I was on maternity leave. And so it really worked out well and beautifully. And pediatrics is a pretty family-friendly residency. You work 80 hours a week regularly, but it's one that is more understanding about family and time off. And I got my 6 weeks maternity leave, so it was good.
Wow, that's hard stuff.
It was good. It was good though. And
That's amazing.
Ever since it had been beautiful. I was able to work part-time for years after finishing residency. And there were times in residency where you wonder, should I have done this? Am I good enough to do this? Is this right for me? Is this okay for my family? But looking back, it's so much easier to see where you were guided throughout the whole process and how easy it really is kind of retrospectively if you just have a different perspective of looking back rather than forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Now introduce our topic. Because I thought of ones as we kind of chatted. We chatted a little bit, but you picked this word. So tell us what word you picked.
Resilient. Be resilient.
And why? Why is it that you picked that word?
So the first reason is I don't know that I feel real adequate at discussing ways that you should be as a human. I've never done a podcast before. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not really a psychologist. But I was clerkship director at Texas Tech for medical students, and I taught medical students quite a bit. And one of the lectures, I didn't come up with the lecture or make it, was given to me as part of the curriculum. But for years, I would teach them being resilient. And so I felt like, well, maybe that's something that I do have some degree of experience with or knowledge about, something I can do. So that's kind of why it initially came to me. But also I feel like being resilient is overcoming. And kind of as an introduction, resiliency means overcoming things, stress, in the face of stress, learning, growing, becoming who you are, who you want to be. So I think that overcoming all the daily hassles and the major setbacks is what this whole life is about, learning how to get over life and become who you want to be, even though life is there. So I think it's a beautiful topic, and I think it's worth discussing, and I'm grateful you're here to discuss it with me, so it's not just me talking.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I have all kinds of challenges that I've gone through, so I do love this resilient word. I know that there's a lot of books that are on it. Do you want to share some of the books that you brought?
I did grab some books. I will warn you, and I don't know how easy this is to see. I will warn you, when it comes to self-help books, I took a class on speed reading one time, and I tend to do a little more speed reading. And so it's not that I feel like I could give a really great overview of all of the books. But this Resilient by Rick Hansen, who wrote Hardwiring Happiness, was really good at looking at kind of the factors of what you need psychologically, what your needs are, and making sure that you fulfill those, which I think as we get into these elements will be fun to talk about how you do self-care and how you self-help and how you do it in a way that's going to build your resiliency instead of just giving yourself a break or a timeout period, which isn't as helpful. So that's good. I brought 4 or 5 books, and all of them
Go
have...
ahead, and And we'll drop the books in the notes so people can go and see them if they want to
Okay.
read them.
Okay, sounds good. I guess this Path of No Resistance is by Garrett Kramer, a sports author, and he talks quite a bit about how life isn't as hard as you think because you just do what feels good and feels right, and that's going to work out for you most of the time. And so I thought that was a beautiful idea, and it's certainly something that if someone's interested, then they should read the whole book. But it was absolutely beautiful. And then Why Success Always Starts with Failure is a good one about just being serene and okay with failure and with mistakes and with where you're at right now and self-acceptance, because that's all we've got and that's kind of where we have to be.
Yeah.
And so those are the main books that
You can
I've
set them
kind
back
of
down on the ground if you want.
okay that I've kind of gone through. And then there's also the article that we used as a discussion for the medical students. I brought a copy of that also. And that is Thriving in Scrubs, a qualitative study of resident resilience. And so that's just qualitative studies is asking people what their experience has been and then analyzing their responses and just publishing them all together. And so those are all ideas that I've been pondering for years, really.
Yeah.
And then I just came up with these little 4 bullets kind of based on all of those that I figured we could talk about.
Let's go over your bullets. And we'll pull out a highlight reel for the teenagers if they just want to get the little snippets of the bullets. So let's hear your 4 bullets, and then we'll jump into the first one.
Okay. The first one's learn serenity, then practice gratitude, then keep yourself healthy, and that's going to be psychologically as well as physically. And then focus on relationships. And so loving people is kind of that last one that is probably most important.
We'll leave time for it for sure then. Okay, let's jump into learn serenity.
Okay. So the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so maybe if we could just discuss each of those separately.
Okay.
So the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And I think that self-acceptance, kind of like what that book was talking about, how success builds upon failure, is really important to be comfortable in a place of imperfection and to be okay with that and to know that nobody here is going to meet your expectations. You're not going to meet your own expectations if your expectations are not realistic and if they're not something you can attain and achieve.
Well, and anybody that's gone through the 12-step program, that's one of the first steps is accepting.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome.
Hitting rock bottom.
Yes.
Like, this is where I am. I'll use this solid, firm foundation to jump up from there.
Yeah.
I do love the 12 steps. I do have a passion for those as well, for everybody,
Yeah.
addiction or not.
Yeah.
Okay,
So accept the things.
Yeah, and there is one study I'd like to mention. There's a coping with noise study where because people try and study things like resiliency, and they give people a terrible noise that they expect them to cope with throughout the day and learn how to be resilient.
I feel like that's my household.
Well, then you're very resilient. You have learned. But they learned some people could not cope and some people were able to cope. And then they interviewed the people that were able to cope and those that weren't. And the difference that they found is that the people that could cope were the ones that just said, this isn't something I can change. I'm just going to learn to deal with it.
Oh my gosh, that's so good because I am not accepting one of my children's really annoying noises because I feel like I can change it. If I would just accept that this is the noise that comes out of his mouth.
Then you can learn coping strategies and move on.
That's so good.
To not changing things.
Oh, I've never connected that. That's a really interesting concept.
Well, and once you don't assign yourself responsibility for changing something, then you can work on not being preoccupied with it. You can do these coping strategies and you can let it go easier and better.
That is so good. So the joyrific chart, which I know that we've talked about.
Yes, you've given me one.
The whole thing is only you can move your magnet. And that means really only you can deal with it. You got to let everything else go. But he makes really annoying noises, especially in the morning. And
Or like,
if I could just let it go and like be okay. Instead, I want to change it. And like,
Yep.
I want to, oh my gosh, I just had like a light bulb moment hit my face.
well, but I do think there are things you can change, you know, like
Yes.
it's hard to know the difference, right? And that's why
Yes.
it's so hard to be serene, is figuring out what you can change and what, because I know probably every family has the loud banana eater that just is like, do you know what I mean
my
though?
gosh,
Like
that's
there's always
hilarious.
one in every
Yes.
family that is just loud with the way they chew or eat or whatever it is, or their
Yeah.
allergies or whatever it is.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay. So accept the things that you cannot change.
And including self-acceptance. So including accept the things about yourself that you cannot change. Obviously, you want to change the things that you can, but there are things you cannot change. And when we get to courage to know the difference, maybe we can talk a little bit about those.
Yeah.
But that's number 1 on the Serenity Prayer. Number 2 is change the things that you can. And this is another hard one because I feel like it can be very overwhelming very quickly if you just think I need to change the whole world right now, or everything that needs to be changed right now.
Yeah.
And I have Elder David R. Bednar. He gave a lesson or a lecture or talk or published something about priorities and setting your priorities straight, because someone asked him, how do you keep your life in balance? And he kind of laughed and said, you can't. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard
Well,
of this one.
it's the one with the spinning plates. Yes, I have heard it.
Yes, and it's so good.
So describe it.
So what he says is you can't. You can only do one thing at a time. And so whatever that one thing is, focus on it and be there and be present and do that one thing. But you can't do everything at once. And so just do what you're doing and focus on that and do it well, and set your priorities in a way where you're organizing what you need at that time better. And I know, oh man, the hours I've spent with medical students and residents talking about balance and how you do like medical school and families and kids and babies and money and finances and dates and all these things.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it can be as simple as this other book that I read, that do what feels right at the time and then don't worry about the other things, but set your priorities in a way that's mindful, that you're organizing them so that you can do what is most important to you and you can do a good job at it. When you're at work, focus on work and do a good job and work hard. And when you're at home, be home and play with those kids and read the stories. And when you're with your spouse, be with him or her, whoever, so that you actually take advantage of that time and give hugs and talk. And it's crazy how 10 minutes can be like a life-changing interaction.
Yeah.
If you're mindful and focused on doing it at the time.
Yeah. So a tip that we have, which this may be a sidebar, but we'll come back to it because it's my podcast, I guess. I can say whatever. But QT time is what we call it. If I talk to you about QT time.
Quality time?
Yeah. Quality together time. My kids make fun of me because they're like QT time. It's quality time. But whatever. So the quality time, and we have a lot of kids, both of us. And so I set a timer for how old they are. So my 5-year-old gets 5 minutes. My 18-year-old gets 18 minutes. And just the other day, I kind of forced it with my 18-year-old. She didn't really want to spend time with me, but we had so many years of QT time that when I set the timer and I said, like, let's do QT time, and she kind of just was like pouty at the end of my bed. And I was like, okay, like, I don't care. You can be pouty. Like, I'm still here and I still love you. And the hard shell did eventually break off. And we did actually have the good conversation that was really hard to have, because there were things that I knew there was a reason that she had a hard shell on. And but it takes time. And it takes focus on being present. Is exactly what you're saying. And I love the Bednar stuff, because he talked about the spinning plates. And if you've seen
Plate
clowns,
spinners.
plate spinners, like, and he talks about sometimes you have to put down the plate and you can't spin all of them, because otherwise they'll crash, and then they'll all crash. And so I don't know. I think it's so hard and good, and it takes a lot of investment and takes years of learning this.
And if you're going to spin one plate really, really well, you've got to spin less of the others.
Yes.
If you're going to spin them all, sort of, then that's great. Spin them all.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to adjust that as time goes on, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and if you're spinning plates, and some of them are plastic, and if they fall, they'll be fine. But if they're your fine china, precious children that fall, like those ones aren't fine. Those break and are really hard to repair.
Yeah.
So focus on identifying those and being okay with some dropping. And
it takes time to identify which ones are the most important and which ones you're going to prioritize. And so take the time to do your mindful thinking and figure out those things.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to yourself as a human, it also takes time to figure out who you are and who you want to be. And that's something you can change. It's part of something you have control over, but it takes a lot of mindfulness. I have a 13-year-old, and she asked me the other day, she said, "Mom, you know how you're supposed to be true to yourself? Well, what if yourself is a really mean person?"
Oh.
And I was sort of like, you know how kids they just help you think about things and learn things in a fresh way and in a new way. And we just had a conversation about, well, then you have to learn who you truly are, because you're not truly a mean person, and nobody is truly a mean person. And I do think it takes some time and honestly some prayer and some spiritual work to figure out who you really are. Because all of us truly are divine. Like, we're children of God, and we have potential, and we can go somewhere and be something that is better than you can imagine. But it takes time to figure out who that is and what traits those are.
Yeah.
And it takes study and effort and work.
And it's really vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I would say, and I've said it on a couple of other of the podcasts we've had, I would rather be angry than vulnerable. And like, it's just so much it's just easier in my life. If I just like lash out and like I have a lot of personality, but instead if I like sit, which has been years of working, like if I instead sit and like cry about something, like that's really hard for me. And I feel so draining. And then it's just hard. And it's not how I was raised. I was raised in a very like, we're not vulnerable family type of thing. Like, we do hard things, we just don't talk about the sad parts. And Garth has brought that into my life, and it takes work. It's really hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah. I do feel like Generation Z is better at that than our generation. I feel like there's some really positive things that have come. Tolerance, vulnerability, authenticity. I feel like Gen Z is doing pretty well in those areas.
Yeah. Well, and they went through a pandemic, right? Like, through some really hard times.
Learned resilience.
They learned and through a pandemic with parents that like also needed to like get our act together.
Yes.
It was hard for everybody.
Yes.
But I do think they came out on the other side being really vulnerable.
I do think so. I do think there's other things that Gen Z, it's different. And I do think that what we had growing up in our generation, I feel like we had more accountability. And I feel like now that's considered more of almost a negative. Being accountable is kind of a negative. But in this discussion of change the things that you have control over, I feel like accountability is huge right there.
Well, and what's really interesting, so like even our church history, there was a lot of like, do this and do that and do this. And there was a lot of programs with accountability checkoff lists. And in 2019, that shift right before the pandemic, where it wasn't so check off list, it was really these 4 different areas of physical, intellectual, spiritual, and social. And the shift changed from parents being accountable to being self-accountable for these teenagers, and leaders in the youth programs to be accountable for them, to not be accountable for them, to help them to be accountable for what they're doing. It's a shift that has taken place, and I think that it's led to this what we're talking about now.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for accountability, because I feel like that's empowering people, because it gives them control over you're in control of what you're accountable for. And if you're accountable for yourself, then that's something that you have more control of and for. And it's really not fair to our teenagers that we teach them that they are this random influence of things that is happening to them. And they just are and have become whatever society is throwing at them, or whatever these external influences say that they are, what they should be or how they should become, when in reality they have the ability to become who and what they choose to be. And that accountability is actually so powerful, and something we should be so grateful for that we have, rather than thinking that it's almost, sometimes I think we think of it as like a condemning thing, like, oh, you're not accountable for this thing you did or said or feel, but if you are accountable for your own feelings, then it gives you control over them. It gives you the ability to moderate them and to control them in some degree.
Yeah. Well, and with Joyrific, as you teach it to kids, they'll point out to mom real quick that she is accountable for her own feelings, and she's having a temper tantrum right now.
Love it. Love it. Good for them, though.
I mean, it's not always easy, but I just wanted to say one more thing with the change of being accountable, how it also allows us to be curious as parents and to see their abilities of what they can do. So we're not I don't know, buffering their abilities, I guess. Like they really can go and do great things. And some kids do great things in a different way than I would. And that's been a hard thing for me to like let go and let them go on their own and do it in a different way. It's just been hard, and you're close. I mean, your kids are coming up to the adulting, so maybe in the next 5 years, you'll have better answers for me.
It does seem scary that you're not accountable for your children so much. You know, as an infant, you're accountable for if they make noise and taking them out and doing all the things. And we've already started transitioning with our kids that I'm no longer taking accountability for some of the things that my children do. It's like, I can't. I don't have control over that thing, whatever it is. And some of their relationships with other people, those are hard because you want to control them and you want to manage it. But when they're 13 in junior high, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And like finding that safe place back at QT time where like we can talk about this. And I have gone through things, but really I need to listen to their experiences and listen in a way not to tell them, but in a way for them to come to the answer themselves. It's hard. It's hard to do that.
Yeah. And I do think as we've discussed these two elements, that last part of the Serenity Prayer, the wisdom to know the difference of what you can control and what you can't, we've kind of discussed it a little bit, but you essentially have more control of your mind than you do your body or your world. Like you don't necessarily get to pick all the things about how you look and all the things about how you feel or how you think. Those kind of come to you, but you do get to pick in your mind how you process them and what you do with them. And so I think focusing on things that are processes and actions that you can do, those are the things that are really going to build your like ability to be accountable and build your control over what you have and help you prioritize what you want to work on.
Yeah. And I will just put in a plug of Matt Larson, who's amazing, Dr. Larson, the child psychiatrist in town, and how he talks about you have these thoughts that come in your head and you don't have control of them, and that's okay. And learning to, if you need help, talk to a professional. There are professionals out there that can help. If you are having really dark thoughts that you don't know what to do with those, you can talk to a safe adult, a safe parent, a child psychiatrist. There's a hotline that you can call. All of those different things of recognizing accepting what you have, changing what you can, and if you feel like you can't change some of these thoughts, what to do about it.
Yeah, how to process them then in a way that is going to be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
And focus on those things that are distressing, like we were talking about with the balancing plates, prioritizing there's certain things that you're just going to be overwhelmed if you're trying to work so hard on getting your how to curl your hair just right or whatever it is,
Yeah.
that sometimes you're going to have to let go. In medicine, we call it daytime problems. I was a nocturnist for years and worked nights. And there's a lot of things. If someone's been having an ongoing issue for years and they're in the hospital trying to get it evaluated, 2 a.m. is probably not the right time to start a big diagnostic workup. Like, we call it daytime problems because that's a problem that needs to be addressed, but it doesn't need to be the top priority right now.
Oh, that is really good. We need all teenagers to know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Because I feel at 2 a.m. is oftentimes where kids want to come in and talk about all of these big things that need to be solved.
Yes.
And right now, the best thing to solve is sleep.
Yes.
And let's get some good sleep.
Yes. One of the books I didn't mention was like 50 Secrets to Resiliency. And one of theirs is don't listen to the 2 a.m. voices. Like, just FYI, sleep at 2 a.m. Listen to the daytime voices.
Oh, that's
Keep
really
daytime
good.
problems in the daytime, nighttime problems at night.
That's so good. I love that. That
is
is
a
really
good
good.
one.
Okay. Now, with Serenity, when have you applied this in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. So I feel like this situation as a podcast can be a little less formal in some ways than like lecturing medical students. I'm a very religious person, not as much spiritual. I wish I was more spiritual. You can talk about spirituality in medicine a lot, but I'm very religious. And so things that I do, like ordinances and symbols, make a big difference to me. And songs and words make a big difference to me. And so serenity is something that I feel like I haven't been able by myself to figure out. But when I'm praying and when I'm like nodding my head, like actively bowing to pray and give myself to God, that's when I can feel okay, feel like I can give up my control because someone else has that control, someone better than me. I don't need to worry about it because someone better is. And then I can organize my thoughts in a way where I can figure out what I need to do right now. I'm not in charge of fixing all of these problems that the world has because Jesus has already done that. Like not quite yet. He's taking care of it and it will be fixed eventually, and having the hope that that's going to be okay. Outside of Jesus, I don't know that any of these principles are possible. Like there's really no hope in the world outside of Jesus. Like if you don't have a savior, if you don't have a redeemer, I don't.
Well, and it's like changing that lens. Like as you like zoom out the lens, which is Jesus, like this eternal perspective, it really makes it a simpler task to solve. But when you're zoomed in with like 10x in junior high, because that's often their lens zooms right into the curling the hair problem.
Yep.
Like it seems so big. Yeah. Like this is going to destroy everything about my life because this curls in the wrong place or it curled the wrong way or whatever the simple little thing is. And so practicing that, like pulling back skill, which comes into the serenity prayer, like the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah. What do you do as a family to help pull back when somebody's focused deep into zoomed into a problem?
One thing we do, there was a conference talk at one point about family councils, and we have taken that to heart where if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, sometimes I just write it down because it's hard to address things at the moment and in the time. But if I write it down, then when we have like structure and when we sit down at a certain time, then we can debrief. In medicine, you call it debrief. When you go through like a code or a traumatizing experience, you have to take time to process trauma, and you have to take time even for little traumas, I think needs processed and needs discussing, but sometimes not at the moment. And so sometimes going back and doing a debrief of a situation after you're not as emotional or in the moment is super helpful. And if we schedule Sunday evenings, the family council time, and that's the time I can say, all right, you've been super angry. We've noticed. We've all been traumatized by it. What are we going to do to change that? And are we all okay with that? And how are we going to strengthen our relationship at this point? Because it's easier when you're not upset about it. Like
Yeah.
it's so much easier when it's not at the moment, when
Yeah.
you're dealing with whatever hormonal issue or whatever
Yeah.
anger issue. And so one thing we do is literally give it time and then still address it.
Yeah.
And looking back, I think that that's been a positive thing for us.
So do you do Sunday council? Do you do it every Sunday?
We're supposed to, but no, we
I
don't.
mean, ideally you do.
No, we
Or
don't.
do you only do it when there's a problem that needs to be addressed?
We're supposed to do it every time. It's not supposed to be like okay, you guys have issues. We need to sit down and
Yeah.
hash those issues out. We're supposed to do it like a
Regular
consistent,
thing.
what's been positive too. We don't want it to be like
Yeah.
a negative thing to have a family council, but we try and last night we sat down and talked about, okay, summer's coming up. What are we going to do? Who wants to do what activities? We're only going to do one thing per kid or,
Yeah.
something like that. So we try and make it a positive thing, but it's been huge for sure.
Yeah, we also do that on Sundays. And I grew up doing that. My
good.
dad was a convert to the church, and he was 25 when he converted to the church. My parents got married, and so he never had structure like that. So we were religious of Sunday. You got your everybody brought their calendar, their like paper calendar, and we all sat around and talked about it. Talked about what the week was, talked about what the things were, and then we just talked. Like we did not lack time to get together and talk.
Oh, good.
And yeah, I think it makes a huge difference in kids.
I like that your family did it in a positive way, because sometimes ours can get a little negative. Like, okay, guys, the house has been a mess. No one's doing their chores. We need to work on this and this. But I like that you've got to keep it positive more than negative so that you can be productive.
Well, and what's the
Negative
saying? Like every 7 positives to 1 negative. I mean,
Love it.
that's a lot. That means 7 weeks of positive time to bring in a 1 negative, so that you can balance out that. It's hard. But my dad always did have ice cream. So we'd always eaten
So it's a
dinner
positive.
and we always had ice cream. I mean, religiously had ice cream. And I tend not to do ice cream, but like I probably should. The kids would be more excited about it if we had ice cream, right?
Yeah.
And something else that we did through that, I was younger. I was the 4th of 5. And as we sit down and do it, I think my memories of it, of like I told and everybody knew exactly what I was doing, but I was like the little 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, and I look at my 7-year-old to my teenagers, I'm like, they don't care about what she's saying. But we never made it that way. And like they did care about me. And I don't know, it was a really interesting, it's been really interesting to give everybody a voice.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what phase you're in. Like you're dealing with things, even though it's your Barbies. Like, well, we can still deal and talk about this and have solutions. And
It's crazy how important siblings are, though.
Yeah.
For that. I have a little baby and I have a 13-year-old, and they love that little baby so much. And the 5-year-old, the big kids, I think it's good for them to take care of little siblings and to be part of their lives and to teach and train and guide them.
Yeah, it is huge. And now I'm finding that my 5-year-old, well, she's 6 now. She's 6. My youngest is 6. I need another baby to come around because she will act. She's just the baby. And I'm like, oh my gosh. When your older sister was 6, she was like carrying around a newborn and changing the diapers. And you like can't tie your shoes. Like, what is happening? So, which again comes back to this perspective of like helping everybody to readjust. Okay. Anything else on serenity? Nope. Okay. Point number 2.
And I think the others will be a little quicker, so that's good. Practice gratitude. And I probably would have picked be grateful, but someone had already picked that for your thing. So I think that's huge. And since you have a whole be grateful episode, I don't want to hash it out like
Go
crazy.
listen to Jordan Hillam's Be Grateful.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yes.
But tell us what well, go ahead, because you have some things.
Yes. So I think, and it kind of ties in, be grateful for being good enough. Like I think you can be good enough, and sometimes it's hard to find things you're grateful for, but you can be grateful that you're okay right now, and that that you're at, even if you're at rock bottom, that you're at rock bottom. So you have a starting place that you can launch off of. And if you can learn to be grateful for other people succeeding, oh man, you'll never not be grateful again, because there's always somebody succeeding. And that's a hard thing to learn, in
Yeah.
to be grateful for someone else getting something or being something or doing something. But I think if you can get there, then you're golden. Like, your life is happy because you're grateful for, there's always something to be grateful for.
Well, and I think what's really interesting about what you're saying is sometimes that may be tied to failing. And being grateful for somebody else succeeding may mean that you failed at it.
Yeah. Yeah. But being able to then appreciate, like being like a kid and be excited for them. And if you can somehow like change your mindset and thinking about being proud of somebody for where they are or what they've done,
Yeah.
then you're never going to be sad again. Kids are so good about that. Like,
Yeah.
I know my own kid, he was racing a friend and his friend like beat him by a mile, and he was like, holy cow, you're so fast. That's amazing. And I'm
Oh,
just
that's
like,
awesome.
kids are awesome that they can do that, that they
Yeah.
can just be like, look at how fast my friend is. That's so cool.
And he didn't turn inward of like, I'm
didn't.
slower. He was just happy for the.
He didn't.
Oh, that's
And
really neat.
that's all about like learning to be like Jesus and like celebrate other people where they're at. And if you can learn to be grateful for them, then you can learn to be grateful for yourself more, and
Yeah.
kind of having that. I think pleasure is really easy to dismiss. And so when you are grateful for something that happened, usually that's pretty fleeting. You know, if you're grateful for applause or something, that doesn't last. And so you have to find something to be grateful for that you can remember, and that's always going to be there. And so being grateful for hope or for love or for Jesus or for other people, like those are the things that's going to last.
Do you practice gratitude journals or anything like that?
I do. We have, our neighbors are just moved, the Joyces, and they gave us a gratitude journal as a goodbye gift. And so now we have a family one, and my daughter has one, and I have one. So we try. We're not as consistent as we probably should be, but I think it's wonderful. There's articles, the 3 good things practice. I don't know if y'all have discussed that or not. The 3 good things practice has been well studied and is really good at increasing gratitude in people's life when they sit down every day and write down 3 good things. And it can be anything, and you can repeat sometimes. But if you sit down every day and write down 3 good things, your life will be more serene, more happy. You'll be more resilient. And all of the resiliency books and resources talks about gratitude as a huge thing for building that ability to overcome and to get better and stronger.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's such a good exercise to like pull back. Again, like we get focused in on those junior high years or whatever it is, or the job or the whatever's happening. And when you like the practice of gratitude, you have to reflect back. So you have to pull back and think about those.
Yeah.
It's not ever an in the moment, oh, I'm going through something really hard right now. I'm grateful for this. I'm going to write it down.
Yeah.
Like it's a reflecting back on that experience.
Yeah.
Which is not always easy. I feel like I
Yeah.
need another boost of like, this actually would be really helpful in your life.
Yeah. And I think if you can't think of anything good, because that's sometimes where teenagers get,
Yeah.
then you can at least be grateful for future things, like opportunities in the future. There's been a ton of adolescents that are suicidal in the hospital the last few years, and they usually have pretty rough circumstances that they come from, or at least perceived rough circumstances. And I usually tell them, you haven't had a lot of ability to make choices up to this point, but these are teenagers. And in the next 10 years, you're going to be an adult. And at least you can be grateful for the future, and you can pick what you want to be and make steps to get there.
Yeah.
And so even if you're not grateful for something that's been going on or something that's happening that's really hard, you can at least pick like a hopeful future. At
I
least.
like that. Okay.
Healthy?
Point
Let's go.
number 3.
Yep, let's
Okay.
do it. Keep yourself healthy is point 3. And I think that this is one that we could spend a whole hour on as well. So we won't. I will just say.
But you are a doctor.
I am
so,
a doctor. So we at least have to mention
Yes.
be healthy, get your sleep. We took Charity to a well child visit for 13, and her pediatrician was so good and sat down for like 40 minutes with her and went through 5 things. And it was diet, and it was sleep, and it was your friends, and it was phones, and it was exercise. And I was like, man, if we could all just like balance those plates in addition to everything else, and obviously within its time and in moderation in whatever ways that you can, but if all of us could just do those things, and so maybe just briefly, like exercise, it is so important to make you feel good and get your endorphins. It's the same endorphins with exercise that you get from marijuana sometimes. And so you can legit like get a high, a natural high out of exercising, and it can help you with your sleep, which is step 2 is getting enough sleep. And I do think that sleep hygiene has gone down a lot with the screens, like the cell phones and all the screens and all the stresses and social media has really affected our sleep hygiene. And so making sure that we're going to bed at a decent time and not having screens that keep us up and turning off our
think
phones.
Also, so sleep, because this is totally joyrific. All of these things are on the caution sign. And I, as a kid, was very sleep deprived, and we didn't ever talk about it. Like my mom was sleep deprived, I was sleep deprived. We just didn't really get along, but really once I got better sleep, I'm like, oh, I kind of like you. And I think sometimes, well, and like there's a circadian rhythm or
circadian. Yep.
Yeah, it gets shifted. It's just hard. Sleep, I think even if you're not getting good sleep, at least if you're talking about it, knowing you do better with good sleep.
Yep.
And how to do that, it's hard, and kids never go to bed, and I'm sleep deprived, and it's hard. But setting that example of like, okay, I'm going to bed. I know I need sleep. I hope that I'm teaching you that too.
Yes, and you can Google sleep hygiene as well, and they have tons of good examples and ideas of things to do to work on your sleep, like making sure the temperature is okay and the noise level is okay, like things that are controllable that you can modify. And there are problems, and there are physicians that specialize in sleep as well. And so if you need to see a physician for sleep, like ask your practitioner about it and see if you can get in. And melatonin is okay to help adjust that circadian rhythm for it's better if you don't need anything, but it is okay to take some melatonin if you need it. Sleep is something I didn't realize how impactful it was when I was young, and I went to college and went through a lot of depression, especially that first year or two. And I didn't even, like, I thought I'm doing everything right. I'm studying hard. I'm learning, I'm doing all the right things. Why do I feel so terrible when I just wake up for, how you're a kid and you just wake up happy and you're so excited, and the magic of childhood kind of dies and you wake up not happy. And it took me a while to realize I was working as a custodian and had to be at work at 4 a.m. And I was with 6 girls, and I wasn't sleeping enough at all. And after weeks and weeks and weeks, you kind of get used to that, but you don't realize the long-term impacts that that's doing, and don't realize that, oh, wait, I need to get my sleep regularly, or it's going to affect my mental health. It's going to affect my appetite. It's going to affect my ability to exercise. It's going to affect everything. You can't survive without sleep.
Yeah. I love there's a book that, it's like a sci-fi book, The Martian. Have you read The Martian?
No.
Oh, it's a sci-fi book. The short of the long is the guy's out in space, and there's another alien species out in space. And the alien species, they're like the last survivors. And the alien notices the human gets dumb after hasn't slept. And like literally, and he's like a smart scientist guy, right? But it's just this funny interaction between the alien, like, I'm not going to talk to you until you've slept because you're like stupid right now. And like but that's how it is. Like if humans don't sleep, your executive function goes way down.
The mommy brain.
Yes.
Like you've got a newborn that won't sleep and you're foggy for a long time.
Which you and I have been, we've had a lot of kids.
Yes.
Yes. I love it. Sleep. So we've talked about exercise, sleep, Let's talk.
Diet.
Yeah.
Let's do diet. I think we don't. So we are what we eat, literally. Like we
Yeah.
are made up of particles that we ingest, and we are mentally what we kind of expose ourselves to as well. So I think it's important to get a good diet. I think it's also important to avoid toxins and to try and limit preservatives and things that aren't good for you. And obviously, we don't do very well at that at our house. Have you heard of the Yucca app?
Mm-mm.
So it's an app that an obstetrician in town showed me, and it's free. You can do like a paid subscription, but the free one is good. And it's just you scan, like use the barcode on all your food, and it gives you a number of 1 to 10 or 1 to 100 of how good the food is, and it like ranks it for you. And I've been loving it. Like it's so fun. And I'll just give my phone to the kids at the grocery store, and they'll want goldfish and scan it. And I'll be like, okay, look at that number. Now go find something that's a 40 or higher. Like go find something else and it includes, it's like 60% of the score is nutrition, like calories and fat and like sodium intake and protein and sugar intake, and then 30% is all the additives and preservatives and anyways, it's YUKA. It has a little carrot on it, and I think it's been really good for our family for trying at least to make steps towards having a healthy diet. And also I think it's important not to be starving all the time. Like obviously you don't want to overeat, and obesity is a problem, and it's been a pandemic of obesity lately, but also you need to fuel your body with nutritious food. And so I think the key is like not eating the stuff that's not good for you, but also eating the stuff that is good for you to give you fuel and energy to exercise and sleep, because you can't as well if you don't.
We 11 years ago got a type 1 diabetic, and life is really easy to track because we can chart it on her graph of carbs equals this, and this is what it does to your glucose. And I think we came at it very much in a way of food is fuel, and you need to have fuel in your body. And because you can get into like eating disorders with kids, and like that's hard. That's not what. And we were kind of raised with, I don't know about your parents, my parents, this generation of all these different diets that were happening, and we've kind of shifted that attitude of food. I don't know, like the diet sphere of trying to talk about food to fuel. And I like what you're saying there. Like food is fuel, and you need a lot of it, and you need to be able to read the labels and understand what you can take. So I'm excited. I'll look into that app.
I think it's wonderful. I have a lot of compassion for people with type 1 diabetes. A good friend of mine that's a doctor, her son just got diagnosed with type 1. And just hearing from her, the personal side of it is so much harder than the like medical side of it. It's easy to say, oh, you need insulin for your carbs as a provider. And even like training and education is easy, but the like day-to-day living is so hard. And getting the doses right and the timing right and the types of carbs right.
Well,
so
and
hard.
if you want to like change what you can, back to the Serenity Prayer, like there's so much of that. Like if you're a control freak and you get a type 1 diagnosis, like all of a sudden, like you can't be there. It's so out of your control. And there are some things you can control, but even still, when you like eat the exact same thing, the exact same time, the exact same way on a different day, and it results in totally different. It's just been it's been really hard. And then we also got celiac on top of it. And so then it's also gluten-free. So gluten-free and like it's just so hard. And something interesting about parenting, which it's kind of also guided the Joyrific chart, but parenting, sometimes parents want to control their kids eating the food. And then and we kind of sit back and laugh of like, eat these carbs so you can get your dessert carbs later. And like, having control of it's something that we didn't do because of a type 1. Like you just can't
control what they're eating.
You just can't control it. You can educate and you can manage and you can facilitate, but really it's so hard. And I think it's gone into how we've raised our kids to help them to know, because they'll come home and talk about how their friends haven't eaten anything. And like, their body needs fuel. They know that. And I think that that's a really important thing for kids to learn.
Yeah, for sure. There was a developmental pediatrician in Lubbock that used to say there's 3 things that you can't force a kid. And one of them was eating, like short of putting a feeding tube down their throat. You cannot force what they eat. Like they're going to figure it out or sneak or not swallow or spit out or however it is. And so there are challenges for sure with diet, but I think being optimistic and positive and including your kids in the cooking and the food prep and the food picking out at the grocery store are all good things. But man, that type 1 diabetes, that's a hard one.
It is a hard one.
So we talked, those 3 are the main. The cell phone thing could be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Well, let's tap on it a little bit because I am passionate about. So friends and phones, we can kind of clump it together.
That's a good idea.
How is it happening in your household?
You know, so Charity started junior high in 6th grade in Texas, and we got her a Gab watch, and I was happy with it. She was happy for a few months. And then the Gab watch was not cool for her. It was not functional for her. It didn't do what she wanted it to do. You can't scan QR codes. You can't do homework. You can't do group text. You can't even text unless it's like vocal things. And so she refused to use it, stopped wearing it, didn't have it for a whole year. And it's hard having a teenager that's coming and going from activities without a way to contact them. And she's pretty good about being responsible and borrowing a friend's phone and saying, hey, can you pick me up? But it's kind of annoying. And so we ended up getting her a phone a year ago and had a phone. She had a kid's phone. It was supposed to be for everyone, but she commandeered it quickly. And
as oldest do.
I feel like it was awful. We should maybe get her around so that she could give her opinion. But it was really hard. And we did parental controls and we did screen time limits and we had rules and no phone in your room. And there were things that she'd be okay with. But for her, it was just totally consuming all of her thoughts and all of her energy and all of her mind. And in a way that was not healthy or happy. And there were outbursts and there was like moods and there was anger and there was hitting. So we got rid of it around Christmas time and there has been no phone and it's kind of inconvenient in some ways, but it's been amazing. And I just feel like I've started to read the Anxious Generation book. And I think that, it compares cell phones at the beginning to like kids going to Mars. And I think it's kind of an extreme comparison, but there's some good ideas there that cell phones and social media isn't something that teenagers are probably developmentally prepared for. And honestly, probably some adults too have a hard time with regulating. They're made to be addictive. Like they're made to keep you going and scrolling and keep you looking and keep you wondering and keep hooking you into a new thing. And it's just not good for our mental health. At least I haven't found any evidence that has shown that it's safe. So for us as a family right now, we have a cell phone plan on our fridge, and it's the things that have to happen in order for us to get a cell phone. And it includes like getting chores done and not being mean and not taking fits and things that are important to us for a plan. And we'll get a cell phone with parental controls when those things are met. We actually have 2. One is for a Gab phone and one is for an iPhone. And so it's the iPhone one is a little more strict, but I just have not seen anything in medicine that has been positive about teenagers having cell phones. Adults, I can't really speak to as much, but they're pretty necessary for survival nowadays.
Right. And I have lots of feelings on this, and it's true. It could be like a whole podcast season on this. But we're doing a More Social, Less Media event that's happening. We just did one in Boise, and we're going to do one in Idaho Falls.
Oh, cool.
About helping the community come together on being more social and less social media.
Awesome.
And how it's been really good and hard. And I think a good thing to talk about here, and again, it kind of comes with type 1 diabetic. We got a type 1 diabetic that all of a sudden like had to have a phone because if she's like, we monitor her numbers from it. And sometimes I will say these like blatant rules that like, this is the line that we stand in. And then you get a diabetic and you're like, okay, never mind. We'll realign all of our thoughts.
Your plates.
Yes.
Different plates.
Yes. And I think that that's sometimes how parents, like if parents have given phones, you can figure out ways to pull it back. Or if you haven't given phones yet, figure out what paths to move forward of like, this is really what would be best for us. And then I think it's huge to practice when it goes wrong, how you're going to have that conversation, because it's going to go wrong. And being able to not overreact, because you're probably going to find out at 2 a.m. that it's wrong. Back to those 2 a.m. voices. And like, this is a daytime problem we can talk about at the next Sunday council or however you do it. I think that there's a whole bunch of things that we could talk about that. And I think the same goes with friends. Like if they've gone to a friend group that maybe isn't the best friend group, or they're on social media that isn't the best that we can see, how to have those conversations but still let them make their choices. I think that is being resilient as a parent. And hard. And I'm not good at it yet. I mean, I'm still trying. And I don't have answers, but I know we're all trying, I guess.
Well, and it's teaching your kids how to be resilient, because we all have the same stresses, and some people seem to like blossom through them, and some people seem to be laid down. And so if you can guide them through like, yes, this was a problem, this was an issue, but how to like bounce back, how to look at it as like a starting place, a stepping stone, how to like come from failure, then that's a totally different situation. The Chinese word for crisis, I think we might have to Google and make sure, is opportunity is one, and like, oh man, pain and opportunity or something like that.
Oh.
We'll have to Google it. But the idea is that, I think like JFK said this is part of his speech or something, but the idea is that when you have a crisis, that's an opportunity to rise above. And so with cell phones and kids, like, I do see some value in them having a phone as a teenager so that they can learn how to use them. I just don't think it needs to be unlimited at a young age. Like I think maybe 16 and like limited and working with a parent and figuring it out sounds ideal.
And I think what's hard is if you're coming, and it kind of goes back to that control thing. If you as a parent are trying to control it, like I'm just telling you, you're never going to be able to control it. Like the kids know more about tech, or they can research it, or they can find somebody that knows more. And we're pretty techie. And so it turns into an arms race is how Garth calls it. So like, if I'm going to control this, then they're just going to figure out, and it just turns into this battle. Mm-hmm. And instead we need it to be we are doing technology together. Mm-hmm. We are figuring this out together. It's not your fault, but this is our responsibility to do this together and to figure it out. So having that open communication, which can be hard because kids want to fight against that, but building that community relationship in your house to be able, and then also when they come to you with the problem, not overreacting, which can be hard because I'm really good at reacting.
Yes. I don't regret giving Charity a cell phone for the time that she had it, because I do think that she went from a place for begging for a phone for years to at least recognizing that it wasn't all positive. Like there were some drawbacks to it. And part of her cell phone plan now is she uses my phone quite a bit. Like if she's going to somewhere, then I'll give it to her to use and change the passcode so she can get on it and call me, or else use Siri, or call her dad or something. And part of what we've done is sat down and said, okay, what do you think needs to happen for you to have a phone and be healthy with a phone? Yeah. And she was the one that came up with, there's 10 minutes a day, no more of scrolling. And I was like, I would have even said a little bit more than 10 minutes a day. Like, I'm so grateful that like you have come up with that for yourself, because she can recognize that it's not all positive, and that she wants to use a cell phone responsibly and have it be a positive influence in her life. And I'll admit that it would be a positive influence in our lives to have an extra cell phone around. Yeah. And so I think when you do get on the same page a little bit as your kid, I think it's going to be way easier. Now, I'm sure we're going to have plenty of struggles still with the cell phone thing in the next 6 years.
We have, because... So our oldest was 9 when she got her first cell phone, and it really was supposed to be just for medical purposes. But like, she just wanted she just wanted to try us in every way possible. And we're glad that we survived her childhood and now she's an adult, but it's just hard. And my husband's been really good to like come at it with a curiosity and let's practice these conversations before. And he's like, okay, Jamie, your face is showing. Like, let's hold it together. And it's just hard and it's never ending, and that's okay. Like that's what we're here for. And I'm glad that we have Wi-Fi and technology and texting. Like you said, it is really convenient, but it is also very hard. And that's part of being resilient.
Yes. Figuring out those things.
Yes. Okay.
On healthy,
Yes.
real quick. I do think, so in the last 10 years or so in medicine, I've seen tons more adolescents with chronic pain of some sort or another, like a lot. It feels like functional abdominal pain was a term we used to use when you just have abdominal pain, but it's becoming a point where it's not functional abdominal pain, where kids can't go to school. They're in the hospital for weeks at a time. They're not able to like get out of bed sometimes. And there's been different names in medicine that we'll call it if it's something that we can't find like a specific source for. But I do think it's worth mentioning because there's enough of it nowadays. And I think all of us hurt some, right? Like we all have aches, and at least me getting older has more aches and pains than I used to. But I do think that it's worth having a little bit of a discussion about when you have chronic pain, what to do about it. Because chronic pain is different than acute pain. And I'm not even talking about pain that doesn't have a source. Like even pain that is legit, you hurt, you had surgery, you had this happen and you're hurting. There are things that you can do still with therapy and counseling that can help you get over that chronic pain. And I think there's parallels to a mental health. When you're dealing with physical pain, you can do the same thing with mental pain as well. And so I just want to briefly mention that when you have chronic pain, it's different than an acute pain. Like if you touch a stovetop and you burn, that's an acute pain. You're hurting and your brain senses pain and you react to it. Chronic pain is different because your brain senses it, but in a different place in the brain than acute pain. And so it's the same, you know how like you're wearing something that's tight and you forget about it after a while. And the same, like runners can get stress fractures and they can run on a fracture for miles and miles and miles because that becomes more of a chronic pain and you're sensing it in a different place. Chronic pain is something that your brain senses it in a place that's a little bit more controllable than acute pain. Like it's something that you can seek therapy and relaxation techniques and help getting over those things. And there's some types of pain that you need to rest to recover from, chronic or acute, like a broken bone. You need to rest from it for it to heal, and that is good for you and what you need to do. There's some types of pain that resting from it is going to make it worse, and that you need to go back and be functional and be out with people and do things, and that's going to make the pain better. Even if it's like a legit pain from something organic going on in your body, sometimes you do need to get out and be around people and function and do things, and that will help the pain feel better and go away. Kind of like how chronic pain is supposed to, where it kind of like you get in this routine where your body starts to kind of forget about the chronic pain some.
So how would somebody go about doing that?
So
and like, let's talk about from like those learning how to adult, so the 18 to 25-year-olds, and then those that are parents of kids that are experiencing this. I think that's two different conversations.
Oh, it totally is. And so for me, like my 13-year-old will sometimes get headaches, stomach aches, sore throats a lot, and always feel like she needs kind of a mental health day. And to be clear, I'm not opposed to mental health days. I'm opposed to mental health days that don't produce a change in your mental health. Like if it's just a break, I need to binge on ice cream because I went through something stressful, that's not a mental health day. And so I'm happy to support mental health days that are actually addressing your mental health. And so as a small, like as a parent, I'll do the parent first because I'm a parent. And so with Charity, when she's pretty consistently asking to stay home from school because she has a headache, because she has a sore throat, I have to talk to her and ask her, Okay, tell me about your headache. Tell me about your sore throat. Have you felt it before? Is it the same as it has been before? Do you have a fever? Do you have congestion? Do you have a runny nose? Is there anything that's like an infectious disease that could be spread to other people with this? If it's not, and if it's something you felt before and eventually goes away with just kind of being up and getting busy or being distracted, then that's something that you're going to have to function through, and you're going to have to learn to work with that. And it can be really, really hard, because if you've got a 13-year-old and there's not a whole lot you can do to get him out of bed, and especially Charity was really tough when she was younger. She was not one to complain about things if it wasn't legit a problem. And so then if you've got a kid that's got a problem that is a reported problem, but it's not harmful to other people, it's not harmful to them, staying in bed all day isn't going to make the problem better, isn't going to make it go away, might make them feel like it's easier to deal with, then that's a problem that I have to talk to her about. That's something I still need you to function through. That's going to be a functional pain or a functional whatever is going on with her at the time. And that can be really hard, convincing your kids anything.
Very hard.
Yes, it is. And she will ask for mental health days a lot. And she's never taken one for school. And what we do, and that's not the right thing for every family. Like if there's a legit issue going on of like some kind of bullying situation or something that's truly harmful to their like feelings of safety, then that's a different situation. But for her, we have to talk about that, and we have to be like, okay, a mental health day, what are you going to do on the mental health day to boost your mental health? And if it's not something that I feel like is going to boost your mental health, you got to go to school.
Right. Like if it's Netflix and ice cream all day.
Yeah, or even just like, well, I'm just going to rest and relax. Like, don't get me wrong. If you've been up all night long, you had to go to the, then maybe you do need time to rest. But as someone that worked night shifts for almost a decade, usually you can make up sleep after a couple hours. Like you do need to focus on sleep, but that's not usually like a sleep binge episode. It's not normally like you just sleep all day long. And even when I come off a night shift, I need to sleep a couple hours, and then I need to be awake so that I can fall asleep again the next night, or else I won't fall asleep again the next night. And there's tons of situations. Everybody's situation is different. So I don't want to say what's best for every individual in every situation. But I do think that there are times that taking too many mental health days is not healthy for your mental health, because it doesn't teach you resiliency. It doesn't teach you how to do things even though it's hard.
Yeah. And I think I'll add into that, because I have had 13-year-old girls. And I think and I am not a doctor. And so I think that what we've done is we get them to the doctor. So if and we can go through our Rolodex of what doctor is it that we're going to call? Is it endocrinology? Is it gynecology? Is it just a pediatric? Is it Dr. Larson is it the child psychiatrist? Like, is it a therapist? And so if they are going to do a mental health day, or they call from school saying, I need to come home, I'm not feeling well, then we can say, okay, but we're going to go and talk to the right person, and it's not going to fall back on me. It kind of turns it into we are going to solve this, not I, as your mom, am going to solve this. Because then I can turn into the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be the bad guy. Yeah. That's hard. And what you're describing is awesome. It's so hard. It's hard to do. It is. And especially if you have a spouse that's not on the same page and wants to have differing opinions on and they come that's what bringing a family together is. Yeah. Or if it's a divorce situation and dealing with that. Like, it is really hard. So I want to talk more about this, because I don't know the answer. And
that's because it's different for every situation. Yeah. We did have a time where Charity was struggling in her track, and she went to a track meet and was just so overwhelmed and anxious about her track meet. And she felt like she couldn't go. And I was like, well, let's go talk to your counselor. So she went and talked to the counselor, and the counselor let me know. At the school? No, she has a counselor.
At a mental health. Okay.
A mental health counselor. And the counselor came out and told me, this is too stressful for Charity right now. I think she needs to skip the track meet. So I was like, okay, sounds good. So we went home, and she just had the worst day. I was just sort of like, okay, Charity, mental health days, skipping things for your mental health means it should be better, not
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
And so I had to start, I feel like, training her how to recognize with herself what the difference is between, okay, there's a difference. This is a really hard thing for me. There's a difference between, if I did this really hard thing, would I look back on it and say, oh, I'm glad that's over. I'm glad I did it. I'm a stronger person. Or would I look back and say, that traumatized me for life and I'm never going to recover? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think that when I was primary president, there was a number of kids that were nervous about speaking in front of the congregation. And I remember talking to one of the girls that had anxiety and usually didn't say anything, and just saying, okay, you can be nervous about it, but let me know what kind of nervous you are. Are you nervous like you think if you did it, you'd be really happy that you did it? Or you're nervous about it like you think it would humiliate you forever and you would never get over it? And I think that trying to figure out the difference between those two things for a kid is empowering.
Well, and like, because anticipation and anxiety can look look the same. They have the same physiological responses. They have, but very different outcomes. And yeah. So what happened? Did the kid identify
She
it?
did, and she did a great job, and I was really proud. And that was a positive. Now, had she said, no, I'll be scared forever, then we would have said, why don't you just stay in your seat? And you don't have to,
Yeah.
like, this isn't something that's a deal breaker.
Right.
And I do think that there's an element of, so anxiety and fear are really closely tied as well. And I do think that fear is something that you can work on overcoming kind of easier than anxiety. Maybe I'm wrong with, this generation does tend to have a lot more anxiety, and there's only so much of that you can control. You can take medication and you can work towards a solution. You can have hope for the future, and those things are all wonderful. But fear is something that I think you have more control over, where it's something that you can like do some deep breathing and work towards, do hopeful thinking, be optimistic, and kind of convince yourself to be optimistic, where you can work through it more and maybe focus on other people rather than yourself. And I think that helps.
I love Inside Out. Have you watched the Inside Out?
Both of them.
Yeah. And how like fear is in the brain and anxiety is in the brain. And I love that they don't demonize fear or anxiety. Like, they are good to have. Fear is there to keep you alive. It is there to like protect you as a human being. And same with anxiety. It's just when it spirals out of control and it turned into that panic attack, or when fear
took over all the other emotions.
Yeah. And how to help like put them in their place and sit with them and be okay with them. But then also we're going to continue forward with our day.
Yeah.
It's hard. I wish I had more answers on it. And yeah.
Yeah, but I especially like the first Inside Out with sadness, where she recognizes that sadness improved the situation. Like, sometimes you appropriately respond with sadness. And the key is recognizing when it's an appropriate response for sadness and when it's not, and how to be both sad and happy simultaneously at the same time. Sad about something, happy about something at the same time. To be totally honest, I don't see that there's a way. Like, I've read books and I've read pain and coping and functional abdominal pains and different kinds of things, and I feel like it all comes down to Jesus again. Like, you have to be close to something higher than yourself. And if you're not at a place where you believe in Jesus or feel him, then have the hope that there's something there, that's something more than you. Because without that hope, there's no way you can find answers to some of these questions or find good solutions or be functional when it's just too painful. You have to have something bigger and better than yourself in order to come out of that. Or else you can't. Like, there's no way if there's nothing better and the sadness is too big, or the anxiety or the fear is too big.
And I think as parents, just yesterday we had a Sunday school lesson, and it talked about, anyways, the point that I was taking away from it is the diving story of divers. The judges rank on the difficulty of the task. You know what I'm talking about when I say that? And as parents, because we're kind of talking about these kids, the difficulty of some of these diving of their daily tasks may be more difficult for some of our kids than other kids. And we get the ability to have the wisdom to help them on their journey when it is so hard for some kids to simply do one task, or another kid, it's really easy for them to do that task.
Yeah.
And I know from my experience with having these teenagers that on paper, like it's not on paper, it's something that I have to like pray about and be patient with to get that understanding of this is very difficult for this one. And so you need to come at it with grace. And for this one, you can push harder, or you can help them do something more difficult. But you can't push and like there's no blanket statement for parenting of kids. It's just so hard.
It is. But I wonder if we get anything out of this podcast, if it should be what you just said about you have to pray about it and figure it out, and you have to learn. And if you're not a religious person or a spiritual person, you have to learn how to pray in some way to receive something bigger than yourself. Like you have to have inspiration and truth, and you have to hear it from a voice that's outside of your own, or there's no way to manage these situations that are so hard.
Yeah. My mom used to always say, or she still does, equal treatment of unequals isn't equal treatment. And how we can apply that to our kids, especially with the kid that's having chronic pain. There's just not, you don't equally treat them the same way, and coming at it with grace. And I feel that my parents were very much like, pick it up by the bootstraps and like, let's move on. And yes, there is a place for that. But then there's also this place of coming to growth and identifying it. And we are in it together. Okay, so now let's transition to those that are 18 to 25. What do you tell them if they have this chronic pain? Or
to be honest, I tell them that they need to see a therapist, that they need to see a professional, because I am not trained. They have dialectical behavioral therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, and they have methods that they use to train people to function outside of their pain. But what I would say is that as a doctor, I can tell you that this pain is something that is functional, meaning you're not limited from doing your activities with it. And so you'd have to go see your doctor and ask them, is this pain something that I need to stay down and rest from? Because a lot of times we just assume, of course I need to rest because it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case, where even if it hurts so bad, and I've been there too, where I've felt like I'm hurting physically very bad. Like, do you not understand how bad I'm hurting?
Yeah.
But your body can recover and it can recuperate. It's hard to see that at the moment, but I can tell some of these individuals, this is a pain that you don't have to stay in bed for. You can get up and you can do things, and we can follow you this often and see what happens, but get up. Try at least to get up and get therapy. And not because you're psycho or it's crazy or it's not a legit pain. Like, it's a legit pain. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but learning how to recuperate from a legit pain and get it out of. The other thing with the chronic pain cycle in your brain is it tends to linger after the stimulus of pain has gone away, because it's already there and it's been there and it's in the chronic pain side. And so that happens a lot when someone has like something that caused chronic pain. And once they're cured from it, it takes a lot of recuperation. There's kids that have Chiari, which is the malformation in the base of their brain that causes really painful headaches a lot. And there's a neurosurgical procedure where you can fix the Chiari. And so there's kids that have had headaches for years and years, and like bad headaches, and they somehow function through it. And then once they've had the procedure and they do not any longer have the pressure in their brain that causes the Chiari, some of those kids have a really hard time even after, because they think in their head, oh, I don't have a headache, life is perfect. But life isn't perfect. Like, you still have to get up and you still have to do stuff and you still have to move and keep on trudging through and doing all these things. And there's been kids that have like been suicidal after getting their Chiari repaired because they have this expectation that my life sucks because of this problem, because of this pain, because of this thing that is happening to me. But that's not the case. That's something you don't have control over. So let that go and function. Now, if it is something you have control over, like you have a health problem because you have appendicitis, then don't let that go. Go
Yeah.
see a doctor. And so it does take some wisdom to know the difference and multiple visits.
Yeah.
And focusing on the problem.
And specialties in different areas
Yes.
of the body. Yeah.
Yes, and not just one opinion, because if it's to the point where you're saying that this is a functional pain and it doesn't have an organic cause,
Yeah.
then that's something I think you should have multiple opinions
Yes.
for, because you don't want to let something go that can't. But there is a point where you can learn to cope with pain, regardless of if it's an organic source or not.
That's amazing. I really needed to hear this today. That's really good. That's really good. And I'll even go back to 11 years ago when we were diagnosed with type 1. But it took a long time to get diagnosed. It took several doctors for us. Nobody really checked our blood glucose. And so they told us behavior modification is what was going to fix it. And for several doctors told us that. And I had all of these little babies and they just blamed it all on behavior modification. And clearly, behavior modification does not change type 1. You need insulin. Behavior modification is not going to make it go away. And it was really hard. Those were hard things to go through. I don't know. I'm just feeling like very resilient in that situation. And now we've lived with it a long time, but there is still pain that goes along with that for a caregiver and for the kids and for the siblings. Like those hard health experiences guide you and help you to learn how to deal with hard things even greater. I don't feel like we're changed. I mean, we are changed. It's just, there's just hard things that help you to become better.
Mm-hmm. And you can be stronger.
Yeah.
Once you've gotten over once you've like accepted them and start from the bottom and keep going and keep working and keep prioritizing.
Yeah. And put down some spinning plates, because there's some things that you just cannot do if that's the case. That was really helpful. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Relationships. And so that's all love right there. Loving someone. And if you're having a hard time loving yourself, sometimes it's easier to love someone else, and that can help you love yourself. Because if you can love someone else regardless of their flaws, then you can start seeing loving yourself regardless of your own flaws and what you have.
Yeah. I saw some reel somewhere of like, just pretend that you have been given this little thing that you had to take care of. But pretend that little thing is you in your own little body and how you treat it differently. And we use the Finch app. Have you ever heard of the Finch app?
No.
It's like this little self-care pet that you get. And you create goals with it and you set up adventures with it. And sometimes the goals can be very simple, like shower or eat breakfast. And you get points and it helps you, and you can become friends with other Finch app users. But it comes back to that self-care of sometimes you treat others so much better than you treat yourself.
Yes. But that can maybe help you learn to treat yourself better.
Yeah.
If you can take care of someone else and figure out your place and find a place with them. See, the Finch app, Yucca app, these are things that, like, I would love my 13-year-old to have a cell phone so that she could take advantage of those resources. And I think we're getting there. I think
Good.
Someday. Love is something that is interesting, because I feel like I want this podcast to be something that people can take away, something that they can do differently and be better and feel better. And sometimes the taking away is hard. Like, you just say, well, love people,
Be loving.
Love it. Be loving. Do you have a be loving?
No,
That's the next one. But I do think I kind of love the Elsa movie or the Frozen movie, where Elsa it's so goofy. And there's you could see so many little plot holes. But at the end, she's just kind of like, love everybody. That's the answer. But sometimes I think that's what it really is, where there's examples of that in the Book of Mormon, where you've got this guy, Alma, that just describes this torment that he's going, like his whole heart and soul is completely harrowed up in torment. And he just cries out, Jesus, save me. And then instantly he's a different person. Like there's a legit, real change that happened. And he's a different person, and he is so happy and so helpful and so transformed. And sometimes I think it is like that, where it just clicks and you just love people and it just makes you feel good and happy, and you can find a place loving people. And I know we're out of time, and so I'll just really say with the loving people, don't be picky about who you love, because I think that especially adolescents sometimes can do that. I think adults too, but sometimes can be a little bit like that, where it's like, well, I need someone that's good enough to be my friend, that's not, and legit not going to bring me down. But sometimes I think the culture here can be a little intense about, you have to be good enough to be my friend. You have to be a certain way, whether that's kind enough, righteous enough, beautiful enough, whatever,
athletic enough, or
yes,
blonde enough.
And you're not going to be happy if you just love the people that are good enough for you. Like, you should be satisfied with good enough where they're at. And it is true that if you've got a significant drug addiction or something, you probably want to limit your time with people that are going to encourage that addiction. But that doesn't mean withholding love from them. Like, you still love them and support them the same and encourage their positive attributes and things where they're at.
With boundaries.
With healthy boundaries. But those boundaries don't include demeaning someone. Like, that's not a boundary. That's rude. And so I think sometimes it can be hard to find the difference between like a healthy boundary and just being rude.
Yeah. So I just went to this conference and they talked about dignity index. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's really cool. So this dignity index, it's a scale of 1 to 8, and you have a conversation. You rate the language of the conversation. And it started for political purposes to rate the political statements that people were coming out if it had this dignity index score. But they've applied it to school settings. So it's this, they've simplified it for school settings of 2, 4, 6, 8. And you rate the conversation with the amount of dignity that you're having in the conversation. And she talked about how respect is earned, but everybody deserves dignity. And with dignity, if it's hateful conversation, it's a lower score. It's a 1 or a 2. If it's kind conversation with dignified responses that have curiosity, that come from a place of wanting to gain more knowledge, that has a higher dignity index score. And it's a really cool way. I've been wanting to talk to my teenagers about it, so I should do a podcast on being dignified. But it has really cool ways to rate it. And there's an app or the website that you can practice, and you read a post or an article or whatever it is, and you try to rate it with their dignity index, and you practice at this ability to see how your language does impact things. I think that with friends, like, if you can come from a place of they can earn your respect, but you always give them dignity. Yeah. And I think of, like, we need to have it at Taco Tuesday, this like dignity index scorecard of how are your conversations going.
I do think that that's a hard thing, because I can see with my own teenager that there are influences that I worry about at school. And then I think about when Jesus came back after he was resurrected and was talking to the apostles, and he did this intercessory prayer. He kind of did away with this whole like ancient Bible thing where like separate yourselves 100%. And he prayed, I command you to go into the world and remain unspotted. Like, he kind of changed that whole mindset of the whole point is to go. And the whole point of being baptized and linking yourself to Jesus like a shekel is that you can go into the world and then not be influenced by it. And so obviously, if there is an influence that is extremely degrading or a problem, then that's something that you need to talk about. But Jesus is the only one that can fix that kind of anyway. So you kind of have to do what he wants you to do. And it sounds like that means going and loving people, even people that hurt you, even people that aren't as good as you, even yourself when you're not as good as you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think trying to figure out how you can just give your whole self to the whole world. And I think that is what I need for me to become is someone that can just give myself freely to the world.
Yeah. I just went to another fireside and he talked about first not throwing stones. And then if others have stones being thrown at them, to become an advocate that catches the stones and puts them down. So that you're not throwing stones back either, but helping with that concept of we're here to help everybody. And it's not okay. It's not okay to be hurtful or hateful or attacking. It's okay to protect yourself and protect others, but in a respectful way.
Without throwing the stone back.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think it builds your resiliency, even if it's a hard thing that you're going through with other people. I think if you can focus on them, then I think it helps to focus on you and to build you a better person.
Yeah. With knowing that it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
This is very
and accepting
hard.
that.
Yes.
Acceptance, serenity. No.
Thank you for coming on this podcast.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
appreciate it. So anybody that wants to linger longer, we'll have a longer conversation at the end of this. But I really appreciate this. I want you to tell me, as you've been thinking about this, because it's been several weeks,
Yes.
what has stood out the greatest in your mind recently that's happened with being resilient? Has there been experiences that you've reflected on in your past or that you're going through right now?
So med school and residency is probably the biggest kind of exercise in resilience. And that is something that I do feel like there were times that I wondered, why did I do this? And I think we kind of mentioned that already, but it's absolutely something that retrospectively I can see how those experiences made me a better and stronger person, more empathetic, more compassionate, more able to talk to other people going through that experience. And also more, like we were talking about with my daughter, more aware of what she meant when she says, I can't do this, my head hurts too bad. And being like, actually, you can. I know, and it's going to be better for you because I've done it and I've been there and it does get better. And even though it's hard, it's going to be worth it because I've done it. And so I do think that there is something about just time passing and learning things that makes you feel better and more capable about helping other people.
Yeah.
I think it's helped in my marriage as well, this idea of resiliency. Medical providers have a high divorce rate in general, super high. And it's the factor that is the high divorce rate is the medical provider. It's not the spouse of the doctor. And so I try, and when I'm talking to students and residents, sometimes they struggle socially, having time with their family and with social networks and getting close to people, and especially going through traumatic experiences and not feeling like they can debrief with their loved ones because they're not going through the same thing. I try and tell them to have enough humility to recognize that you're the one that's changing and it's not them. And so give it time and be patient, and it will get better. And it does get better. It always gets better eventually if you're still working on it. And not to say there are some situations where divorce is probably a good thing in cases of abuse and other things, then that's a good thing. And I don't want to demean divorce, but I do want to say that having the humility to accept that it's probably you as much as it is someone else is going to help a lot with you doing things that you have control over to help the situation, and not just focusing on things you don't have control over.
Yeah. I love Brene Brown. She talks about have you heard her talk about 50-50 in a marriage? So if you're coming at a marriage where you're contributing 50% and they're contributing 50%, so you're never going to
Yeah.
reach that. So you need to do as much as you can to 100. So if there's days where I'm at 80% and he's at 20%, like we still reach 100.
Yeah.
And we can communicate about that. And I think the same goes with our kids too, of I need them to put in some percent and I need to put in some percent. So there's times where I have less and they can do more. And there's times where they do less and I can help do more and help balancing that. But at least creating vocabulary where you can even have that discussion.
Yeah. Well, and I have heard that actually before, and I like the idea both of you have to put in 100%. Like this is what your focus is. This is what your priority is. So put in 100%. And like the plates, it may not be 100% at this moment. I'm not at home with my husband right now. I'm doing a podcast. So I'm trying to be engaged at the moment. But I think when you're there and when you're home, be there 100% and do your very best and be grateful for your ability to keep up with the dishes if you're the only one doing that, and not feel like you don't have the ability that you can even keep up with the house, even if it's stressful. So I do think there's some really drudgery days when I'm just at home with the kids all the time. Yeah. Like when I do 8 shifts a month right now, and I've done different amounts of work over the years. And so there's a lot of days that I'm at home for 2 weeks at a time. And it does feel, there are days that are very mundane and it feels like everyone's taking advantage of you because the kids just come home and throw stuff everywhere and make a huge mess and take out everything and just don't even realize that there's been a banana peel on the floor for hours.
3 days.
Who knows how long? Don't even realize. And it does seem like there's days where they're just walking all over you as a mom.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but if you can be grateful that you can be that doormat for your kid and then expect that they will learn and grow and improve and you'll have conversations and eventually you won't be a doormat anymore, then be grateful for the time that you can.
Well, and I'd even push back on doormat and say like a safe, soft landing space, right? Like if you can be that safe, soft landing space, which is good, that netting there that's to support them from crashing to the bottom. But then it turns into the scaffolding as they build their own life, whatever that is. And some kids need more scaffolding. We went to New York this last summer, and you've been to New York. So the construction that takes place, somewhere there's construction. And some of the buildings, the scaffolding, you can see the scaffolding and like all of the dust and all of the stuff, you can tell. Some of them, it had the tarp that was on the scaffolding actually looked like a building. So from a distance, it looked like the building was fine. But as you got closer, it was a picture of a building that had scaffolding inside of it, and it was under construction. And I don't know why that stuck out so impactfully to me, where I can be the scaffolding for my kids as they're doing this. And sometimes I can be the scaffolding that looks like a building. And they are trying their best to get the things done, but they're just not quite there yet. Compared to the scaffolding where like it was very tarpy and like dust and you could tell like it was kind of a train wreck. It just, for me as a parent, I thought, oh, if I'm going to be scaffolding for my kids, I want to be that scaffolding. I don't want to be this look like a train wreck scaffolding. And sometimes we are, and that's just life. But it was an interesting perspective that I had of, as we put in our effort, helping them to feel independent is kind of part of the goal. And it's tricky because nobody gives you a paycheck for doing that. If anything, you're paying to do that. And it can be hard.
Yeah, it sure can. But if you can make it rewarding. At least when they're all in bed and you go and look and see them sleeping, then how beautiful is that? The book, The Path of Least Resistance, kind of speaks towards those ideas some, where he kind of says, if you are frustrated at your kids or whatever, well, this is my application of what he was saying, because he's talking more kind of for athletics and business and other things. But if you're frustrated at your kids because they're taking advantage of you or abusing you, like the way children do, how they kind of jump on you or whatever, then recognizing those thoughts and emotions and allowing your emotion to show and like getting after your kid is appropriate and right and good, because that's what you should do to help them to grow. And so then not like beating yourself up over I yelled at my kid, but being like, okay, that was a lesson. Now let's address, if obviously you don't want to go too far and you don't have to scream and yell to make a point, but allowing the emotions to like dictate kind of how you address the situation is going to help make them a better person and make you have a more functional home where it's possible to have a functional family.
Well, and identifying that of like my behavior affects other people. And and that comes back to the joyrific chart of like only you can move your magnet. So when I first started it, it was a strip that was just straight up and down. It wasn't in a 3x3 square. And I found that the kids would go from extreme to extreme. There wasn't a lot of like in between. And I was even going extreme to extreme. There wasn't a lot of in between for me as a mom either. And I was a mom of 3 little girls, and like it was a lot. So I found as I unmasked my behavior and helped them to see like, okay, I've asked you 5 times now. Like I'm moving my magnet from kind down to angry because this is making me really grumpy and you're not. So, and help, and kids want to help. The kids want to be good.
They do.
They do, especially little ones. They want to please you. And that's part of this bond as mothers and children that we have. And we don't want to take advantage of that, but you want to help nurture that and help them to see that. And that they're not failing. And it's unconditional love, even though you stepped over the banana peel like 15 times.
Yeah. And that unconditional love helps you be a stronger person and human and teaches them how to do that for their kids. It's a beautiful cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any last thing that you thought of or that you processed over this that you want to say?
Oh, can I look at this?
Yes.
Real quick. Is there something I didn't say? Oh, so the Chinese word for crisis, I don't know how good you are at like editing back.
I might.
You don't have to. But the Chinese word for crisis is danger and opportunity and change point. And so like there's a stimulus that's danger and there's an opportunity for change. So I think stress can produce useful energy, like you can get, even if you're being shamed or something, that can be a powerful motivator sometimes to move. And not that we should
shame our children.
Right. But that you can use shaming or stress and you can grow from it. And there's like a happy place of stress where if you don't have enough stress, you're not going to be productive and you're not going to be as happy. And if you have too much stress, then that's obviously a problem as well. And you need to start putting some plates down. But I think there's a happy medium there with stress being a good thing and embracing the stress and being grateful for some stress. So that you can recognize that it's helping you to grow and to become and motivating you.
Well, and it kind of comes back to Inside Out, where the stress was she moved to a different city and joy and sadness were gone in her life. She did not have them controlling her control panel. So she was being driven by fear and anger. And that fear and anger made not great choices. It was still stressful. So helping us, and I think being grounded, coming back to whether you're praying or whether you're holistically thinking about something, but that act of being grounded in something bigger than yourself will realign that in your brain, hopefully.
I think that probably is the biggest takeaway, is having something outside of yourself. I had a teenager in the hospital not too long ago that was suicidal. And he was one that I spent a lot of time with. It took some time to get him ready to go to a psych hospital. And we would talk every day, and I would try, and usually I can talk to teenagers and bolster them with a little bit of optimism or a little bit of positivity or hopefulness for the future. And this particular teenager was not hearing it. It was not optimistic at all and could not recognize. And I had my typical talk about 10 years in the future. Where do you want to be? How can we get you there? And he just didn't want to be alive, like not here, and was very clear about there is nothing that I can hold on to. There's no choice. There's no future. There's no optimism that's going to make this world okay. There's so many problems that we have here in this world that I don't want to be here. And I just have to go back to that's true. There is no hope in this world outside of Jesus. Like that's kind of your only hope. And if you are going through a faith crisis or something like that, recognize it for what it is and spend some mindful moments in prayer and try to connect back. And I think it's something we're all going to have to go through. I don't think anyone is born just knowing that Jesus is my savior and just being super happy about it their whole entire lives, because you have to have that joy and sadness together here. And I do think with some of my faith crises, I remember as a resident having babies that were abused in the hospital and being in the ICU and working nights and coming home and nursing my own little baby that's 2 months old, and then seeing these babies in the hospital and just feeling like, no, this isn't God. Like, this can't be. This isn't the God that I know. He couldn't have these babies in the hospital this way, the way that they are. Like, there's no way that's not compatible with my idea of what God is and who he is. He couldn't, especially when you're nursing your own little newborn and you've got all the mommy hormones there and you're seeing him, and then there's babies the same age that are like beaten to death almost, or gonna have a bad outcome developmentally. It's really hard to align that process with a God that loves you and that loves these babies and that loves everybody and that is okay watching them there and being present but not intervening there. And I think that we all have those moments where it's just a huge crisis of our faith, and maybe not in the way of, I don't believe there is a God, but not the God that I know. Like the character of God is questioned, or who he is, or what he is, or his abilities, or something. And for me, it comes down to there's no other hope or option. I can choose to believe in a God that can fix this someday, or I can choose that there is no hope and that it will never be fixed and that this is all that there is. And it's easier, if there was any other option, I'd take it, if there was any other, if it wasn't for, it's hard to believe in a God that's okay with struggle and okay with hard things and watching us go through hard things and believing that he's there and can lift us out of it and that he's not doing it is hard to accept. But it's not as hard as believing that there is no God or no option or nothing better or nothing that's ever going to change in this life. And so I think going through the faith crises and connecting to your idea of God or faith or whatever that might be is the only way to kind of overcome these things that happen in life and to feel better about things. And he gives you resiliency because he's the only one that has overcome it. No one else can. No one else can get over this life at all.
Yeah. And you're not alone because of that. Like, even if you feel alone, like he also has felt that too. And so it's, yeah.
That's all I've got.
That's a lot. It's amazing.
It's a beautiful life.
It is a beautiful life. Really hard, right?